All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'll go over just a few housekeeping items before we jump into the content, but thank you very much for your time. As Julie indicated, we are recording the session. This will allow us to share it on social media and other platforms after the fact for those who weren't able to join us. We are using Microsoft Teams, as you know, so I'm hoping that that will go smoothly, but will allow us to take some questions, and Julie will be queuing us for those, so we'll get through as many as we can, depending on the time that we have. So don't hesitate to post your questions as we go through. We'll also be issuing a newsletter following this. We're excited to get started on some of the updates and begin to re-engage the community after a bit of time in the pandemic. So please watch our social media and a variety of places. So I'm very pleased to welcome you and introduce myself to those I don't know. My name is Laurie French, and I was very proud to be selected as the CEO and president for Providence Village in April of this year, as well as the administrator for the Sisters of Providence Motherhouse. And so thank you again for joining. Before we jump into the content, I would very much like to recognize that certainly Providence Village and all of us who joined today are in receipt of beautiful lands that we are grateful for and that we must acknowledge are the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee locally. We, as an organization, and all of us have much to do in this area to improve relations and the harms of the past, and that includes the work that we're doing here in the village. So my thanks to you all. September the 30th marks the National Truth and Reconciliation Day, and I think this is a good way for us to acknowledge how the work that we need to do will move us all forward in a positive way. So thank you. So I'll get started. I'm grateful to those who attended our first community tours that we held last week. We had over 50 people come and join us and walk about the village on the property to hear about what's happening with Providence Village. So some of you who attended, if you're here again, a little bit of this will be repetitive, but really grateful to have an opportunity to speak with the community about what's happening and the progress that we're making after a number of years living through the pandemic that have absolutely impacted all of us. So Providence Village has an independent board of directors, as you can see on the slide. We're grateful to have the community work with us on that. But Providence Village was initiated 5 years ago with the vision of the Sisters of Providence to ensure that the land here with the Motherhouse property and other initiatives will carry forward their vision to care for the vulnerable into perpetuity. And so Providence Village is an innovative way that they have structured the way that their resources are organized and have donated this particular land to the Catholic Congregational Legacy Charity in order to own the property and then assist us as a board of directors to utilize that in a good way. And so we're very excited that the village concept itself that many of you will have heard about in years past is now able to move forward and really bring to life the vision that they had to ensure that Providence Village is a community of hope and belonging, and that we will be a village of people caring for people. And so I'm really excited to share with you some of the activities that will be happening. The village here at 1200 Princess Street is a 36-acre tract of land that we'll talk a bit about some of the projects that we have underway, but that will really help us to bring that vision to life. So as I mentioned, there have been delays, to say the least, and while COVID impacted us locally and in the world in a variety of ways, it certainly did affect the progress that was happening with respect to Providence Village. And the visual that you see on the screen is a great piece of work as that community engagement was getting underway, and being able to bring together the community to give us their thoughts on how the Sisters' vision for engaging the community, for caring for the vulnerable would go forward. And so as some of those events you will have participated in, we're able to begin to pick up where we left off and absolutely build on the feedback that we had and the great discussions that took place. I would say that the most direct impact, of course, is around supply chain and the impact on the construction projects that have slowed some of the work, but that we're very excited to see getting underway again. So in July of this year, with the partnership of the Board of Directors for Providence Village, we updated the master plan for what's happening here on the property. And so I share that on the screen with you now. It will look somewhat familiar, but a few of the ideas that are not happening, but other ideas that are happening are all reflected here. So I'll be talking about the walking path project that you'll see through to the right on the screen in front of the Motherhouse property. I'll be speaking a little bit about the Motherhouse property itself, the building, as well as the retail and parking garage space, and some other initiatives at the rear of the property related to housing and our Providence Manor property downtown. I'm pleased to have Krista Pearce join us from Providence Care Hospital to speak about two major projects as well with respect to Providence Manor and the new build and Hospice Kingston. So the Sisters of Providence in the Motherhouse, this is presently home to about 60 sisters who still live here, and that includes the Sisters of Providence congregation themselves. But about 10 years ago, as numbers declined, they were wise to open their home and welcome two other congregations. The Religious Hospitallers of St. Joseph's and the Congregation of Notre Dame include sisters who live here with us at the Motherhouse and who were privileged to have participate in the journey as we go forward. One of the biggest things that we're doing with respect to space utilization and plans for the Motherhouse building itself, we've been able to speak with a number of properties who are looking at partnership with us inside the building. And the biggest one being, we're very excited to be finalizing the details of a lease with Hospice Kingston, a program that you may have heard about in the community, but that will serve mothers and their children who would otherwise be in care as those moms are recovering from drug dependencies. And so a residential space exists in the building that will serve this program very well. And so we hope very soon to be able to have announcements about when that program can begin. But this is a significant change in how the Motherhouse has been utilized over the years, and the Providence Spirituality Center that has been home to many important events in the community over many, many decades. So we're honoring their work, but very grateful to be able to move into the future, utilizing the space in this way. And a number of other partners who would be operating similar kinds of community support and healthcare programs for a variety of residents in the community who have care needs. We're also in discussion with them to hopefully bring them into the building soon. We have about 200,000 square feet in this building that can very much be put to use in delivering on the vision that the sisters have created, and we're very excited to be moving through that now. The walking paths that I mentioned, you'll see in the drawings at the top right. This is an area that was created in order to serve two purposes. Certainly you can appreciate, while this is first and foremost the sisters' home, even through the construction, we want to be sure that they have an area to enjoy while construction is taking place, and significant disruption that will be happening on the property. That's part of the development going forward. But in order to serve them, we've created a project that will hopefully move forward in the spring if all goes as we expect. And this will provide for them a walking path area outdoors where they can be somewhat aside from the construction area and still enjoy the beauty and the green space that they are very committed to connecting and to protecting on the property as we go forward. So we're excited to see that project move ahead. However, as the village comes together and this moves from private property to the village itself, the public will be able to enjoy these walking paths as well, along with all of the residents in the village. The parking garage is a major component. You can see it where the arrow points to. This is a critical component of the planning piece and the investment of the sisters as they look to see how the village will move forward and begin to be built with a great commitment to green space and protecting the environment. the village is clearly, as it grows, going to require parking space. And so to avoid having too much green space utilized for parking, they've made an investment up front that will include a parking garage to be able to manage traffic flow in the site and provide parking spaces to serve not only the new long-term care home, but also other properties in the village. And so we're carefully working on that to ensure that it reflects the heritage of the site and the architecture and design that will be complementary to the village, but also is of convenient location to all of those partners who will be coming here into the village. So there will be commercial space, as you can see, in the ground floor of the parking garage that will further enhance the services that are available here in the village. And so whether that's complementary organizations or perhaps pharmacy or other medical equipment and supplies, there's lots of opportunity for us to work with partners to bring those services into the village as well. So I'm going to turn it over now to Krista Wells-Pearce from Providence Care Hospital to speak about two of the major projects in the village, and then I'll be able to share a little bit more about what's happening on our side. Krista.
Thank you, Laurie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I had to put my drive-through headset on with all these wonderful people who have joined. My very first job was at McDonald's, so it feels natural. I don't like it, but for large groups, I often need it for bandwidth. So thank you first, Laurie, for having me and inviting Providence Care to come and speak to everybody today. I am Krista Wells-Pearce. I'm one of the VPs here at Providence Care, and my office is here at the hospital site. Next slide, please, Laurie. So Providence Manor, Laurie's just shown you where our future home is going to be located at Providence Village. We have needed a new home for many, many, many years. It has served us very, very well, and certainly very grateful to the Sisters of Providence for their ongoing support of Providence Care, using their building to provide care to seniors in the community for their long-term needs. But we need a new facility. It is past its prime, and standards have changed in the province. Expectations have changed certainly for the residents and their families that we serve, and our staff as well, in terms of the working environment that they would like to have to provide the best care possible to the people that we serve at the home. So we have been designing in various iterations over, I meant to look actually today, it's been at least 10 years for me that we have been talking about the need for a new Providence Manor. So I'm going to share with you today a little bit of a status report in terms of where we're at, and give you a bit of a sneak peek into what some of the exterior design will look like, and just a description of the amenities of the home itself. Next slide, please. This is it. This is our architectural rendering of the vision for the exterior of the building. So this would be looking northwest, I guess is the orientation there from the front of the home. The main entrance, sorry, I don't have a cursor, so I can't really orient you, but down at the bottom, thank you, Laurie, that is the main entrance of the home as it's currently designed. Just to the left of that is a patio, so a retail space, as Laurie has just mentioned, for the parking garage. We're also wanting to welcome the community in to use our pub. And then just immediately to the left of that, the entrance door that you may be able to see there is for the daycare that we're hoping to open in partnership with YMCA. Next slide, please, Laurie. So just some quick facts about Providence Manor. The intention is for it to be 6 stories. So the main level, just above the basement where some of our support services will be housed, will accommodate all of our main level amenities. And then all of the upper floors that you saw in that rendering will be the resident home areas. So each resident home area is 32 beds, and each story of the building will have 2 resident home areas on it, so 64 beds per floor. We had a lot of questions about washrooms in the early days, so we actually did a washroom count. to answer someone's question, probably about a year ago. So 318 in total. 320 beds. So that's 77 more beds than the 243 that we have at our current location downtown on Sydenham Street. The vision is a full renewal, a refresh, getting back to those standards that I mentioned have changed and the expectations that have changed, and rightfully so, for the people we serve and the staff who provide the fantastic care and support services in the building. So obviously accessible, and we also want it to be easy to understand. This is the home for the residents that we serve at Providence Manor. And we want it to be easy for them to navigate, and obviously for their loved ones to come and navigate with them when they're visiting. We want secure outdoor spaces as well as open outdoor spaces. So in partnership with Providence Village, I think the way that we've sited the building is certainly going to support some perimeter that is secure for the residents that require that that protection, as well as having it being completely open for those who don't. Improved dining areas, seating for social interaction. Our dining rooms right now are very busy places, and the new dining areas in the new home are going to accommodate certainly the equipment that can come along with the residents that we serve in the home, as well as their loved ones, and of course, again, our staff. Common areas, I already mentioned the pub in the rendering that was there. So we will be bringing the pub with us. We have one now at our existing location, as well as the Veterans Lounge would be rebuilt in the new home. And we want to get as much natural light as possible into the space. There's absolute energy and healing capacity in sunlight and being able to see the outdoors, which I'm lucky enough to be able to do in my office here. It makes a very big difference in the lives of the people that we serve. Next slide, please. So community and social spaces I've just referenced as well. We want it to be welcoming, but it also needs to feel home-like. Our residents do live at Providence Manor, and so it needs to be resident-centered to meet their expectations as well as their care needs, but also create some destinations within the home, as well as those external garden spaces to give them some destinations either to visit with their friends who are also residents within the home or their loved ones when they're there visiting. The pub is coming, and we want to have games rooms. The Veterans Lounge I already mentioned is included in the design. Resource spaces for ongoing learning or just information that may provide some activity for the residents to read, to learn about the care they're receiving, what's going on in the world. Group rooms, and of course the dining areas, of course. And we're intending for those to be multi-purpose, if you will. So not just occupied when we have our 3 squares a day, but to make use of those spaces as well in those intervening hours around mealtime. Next slide. Thanks. Spiritual health and worship spaces. This is a picture of our spectacular chapel that we have at the existing Providence Manor site. And I wish I could say that we will be recreating this in mirror image at the new Providence Manor, but unfortunately, resources being what they are, we will not be able to recreate this, and it is going to break our hearts when we leave Providence Manor in its entirety, but I would say mostly because of the beautiful space that we've been blessed with over the years in this chapel. We will have a worship space dedicated, not multi-purpose, in the new Providence Manor. It is going to support not just our Catholic mission, but also any other faith groups that may practice their worship in different ways. The worship center is going to accommodate that, just like we've been able to do here at our Providence Care Hospital site. Next slide, please. And I've already mentioned natural light. So this is just a rendering from the rear of the building. You can see on the right side of the slide here, that little green focus area. This is the perspective that you'd be looking at. So almost due east, looking into the back of the horseshoe of the building here. These are the garden areas, the outdoor spaces that are included into the design so that residents, staff, visitors, and the loved ones of our residents can access beautiful outdoor space as well. Next slide, please, Laurie. And I've mentioned the Y as well. We still have a partnership with the YMCA. They want to rebuild their daycare at Providence Manor, the new location on the main floor. We have a memorandum of understanding with them, and they have been alongside us designing their daycare space. Will be operated by the Y. Daycares being what they are, they have lots of rules as well in terms of the types of space, the size of space, the fact that they need their own entrance, they need their own parking spaces for the parents or grandparents or other loved ones who are dropping off and picking up the kids at the beginning and the end of the day. So all of those variables have been accommodated in the design for this this suite that we're still committed to be building with the Y, and they're certainly still very committed to delivering the space. Next slide, please. Our timeline. I don't have dates on here. And I know we had a lot of questions. Thank you to all of you who asked questions ahead of time. It was able to give us a bit of a flavor for what you wanted to hear today. And sadly, I can't give you a timeline. Just as Laurie mentioned at the beginning of the session, we've had delays as well. Healthcare, everyone knows, has been struggling but surviving these last few years during the pandemic. We were able to maintain our planning timeline. We slowed a bit. Absolutely, we slowed a bit, but we didn't stop because we know how important it is to deliver this building and to provide new space and accommodation for our residents. But like other long-term care homes in the province, majority, I will say, of long-term care homes in the province, inflation is impacting our project. We currently are not in a situation to be able to award a contract and start building because of the significant increase in the construction market in all things, but in construction, absolutely. We are not alone, which also is unfortunate, but it makes us realize that we have a voice, and we have been using that voice with the province, with the government, to see what the intentions are to further enhance or modify the way that long-term care homes are being built in the province, because the province has just as much interest and absolutely dire need to see these homes and these additional beds built in Ontario. I'm sure many of you have heard the tens of thousands of beds that the province has been speaking of even before the pandemic. Providence Care is included in those numbers. And so we continue to work in partnership with the Ministry of Long-Term Care to advocate for the need for the home, which there is no question about, and they certainly aren't doubting. But we're navigating with them how to manage the budget pressure and obviously then the corresponding schedule pressure. We do have a delay as it relates to our desired opening date. So I can't give you a specific timeline, but I can say as recently as, I'm going to say 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, we were in discussion with the province about our project specifically, and we're assured that they were working on a solution to support all homes because they do have a vested interest, as I said, in making sure that these projects come to fruition. Next slide. I thought that was my last Providence Manor slide, and it is. So I'll shift to Hospice Kingston now. So I'm the executive director of Hospice Kingston as well. Very, very blessed to have Hospice Kingston added to my portfolio here at Providence Care when we integrated with Providence Care and Hospice Kingston in April 1st of this year. So it's only been about 6 months, and it's been fantastic. Absolutely great partnership between the two organizations. For those of you who aren't familiar, Hospice Kingston provides a variety of services in the community, and we've managed to keep many of them alive in a modified capacity throughout the pandemic. virtual, really. So in-home visiting, day wellness program. We have a great day wellness program, caregiver support, and grief and bereavement support. High level types of services that we provide and have been providing in the community for many years. What we don't have, and Kingston hasn't had, is a hospice residence. So this project also, long before Providence Care and Hospice Kingston even started talking about integration, this project has been active and discussed in the community, and thankfully, just like Providence Manor, will be built at the Providence Village site, which Laurie oriented you to in her site plan review at the beginning. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. Next slide, please, Laurie. Thank you. This is the architectural rendering for what will be the beautiful hospice residence at Providence Village. I love it. Every time I look at this rendering, I get more and more excited about seeing the building go up. And I know I'm not alone in that. Next slide, please, Laurie. So just again, at a quick glance, this is the first hospice residence in Kingston, Hospice Residence and Palliative Care Center. We want to create, again, completely aligned with the vision of Providence Village and certainly with the vision of Providence Care, a place of compassion and care to approach the needs in all aspects, physical, emotional, social, and spiritual needs for individuals who are nearing the end of life and require the support that a hospice residence can provide. The design, just like Providence Manor, is going to be inclusive of all faiths and cultures. And what having the residence is really going to do for the community is provide a seamless transition in care for those folks who would be more comfortable nearing the end of their life outside of their home, or do not want that to happen within a more institutional hospital-based setting like we have here in our palliative care unit at Providence Care Hospital. Next slide, please, Laurie. I do have a timeline for this one. It's taken a while. Our tenders close this week. So if everyone online can do me a big favor and just send some positive energy to the construction community, give us a price that we can move straight forward with. We want to have a contract awarded by the end of October. So we do have to go through one final step with the Ministry of Health, but they're on standby for us. We've told them that tenders close this week and we want to get a recommendation package into them. They do have to give us the green light to actually award that construction contract, and then we can be off to the races. And that step is required because they do fund a small portion of the capital project itself, and then some of the operational costs required to operate the hospice. Hospices are not funded the way that long-term care homes or hospitals or other community-based services are funded by the province. So we have lots of fundraising before us, and I know our key fundraiser is on here right now. Donna, great to see your name. So we have some work to do, and what we want to be able to do is celebrate the fact that this building is going to be building project is going to be underway this fall. So stay tuned for more information about that. Hopefully, everything that we have lined up to this point, it will be coming to fruition as planned from a schedule perspective, and we'll be able to announce that we've awarded. Our goal is to be in operation very early in 2024. So we're banking on about 15 months of construction. And then we have to do some work to actually ready the building for occupancy, do staff training, those sorts of things, and then welcome our first resident to the hospice again early in 2024. You can stay connected with us as well at Providence Care. We have a general info at Providence Care account where you can sign up to receive our newsletter. Our website, our public website at providencecare.ca is full of information. And of course, you can follow us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, Laurie.
Sorry, Laurie, you're on mute. There you go.
There we go. Sorry about that. I was thinking, I'm not sure if I was to click or you were. That's great. Thank you. And thank you, Krista. It is very exciting when we get to see the pictures, but very positive and very hopeful. We feel like we're very much on the cusp of these major projects moving forward, and so grateful to have you with us in the village and your time today. So thanks for giving us those updates. One of the other things that we wanted to speak to you about is the rest of this very large parcel of land that we have to work with, and the other ways that we're hoping we can deliver on the mission and the vision of the Sisters of Providence and other projects who will come into the village and work with us. So in the diagram where you can see the walking paths at the front, the current mother house, and the parking garage I talked about, the Providence Manor building and complex itself, as well as the residential hospice, we are looking at an opportunity with a particular partner who is exploring the feasibility of a housing development at the back of our property. So for anyone who's been in the neighborhoods adjacent to the Providence Village property, this is the back or southern end of our property that backs up to a number of homestead properties and housing area in the city. And so for us, it's about understanding how best to utilize this land to continue to deliver on that legacy and other partners who will really help us get there. So we're hopeful that in the coming months, we will hear about this particular organization who is confirming whether or not they can get the financial feasibility and design work done in order to be able to announce a seniors housing initiative on the property. There remain to be a couple other spaces on the property, as you can see. At this time, there are no other partners committed in those areas, but we continue to have conversations with a number of partners who are very interested in both the village and in the mother house property. And so we're quite excited about that. As well as the major construction projects, though, as we build a village, we need to think about what are those things that draw people into the village and that really bring together the various service organizations that you've heard a little bit about today. We are in conversation to understand how we can engage with the Indigenous community to see how we might welcome them onto the land that they have gratefully cared for us. But how do we meaningfully have conversations about what is possible and how we can outline that commitment together? Additionally, we are working with a number of organizations to explore opportunities around forestry and planting. So a significant commitment to green space on this land and ensuring that we have what we're calling a green spine down the center of the property and ensuring that we are responsibly foresting the site and planting appropriately with species that are complementary and that will serve us into the future to protect what remains to be a significant portion of the village and supporting green space, as well as exploring community gardens. There's a couple of partners who you may know of that would be wonderful to help us build community gardens and food security programs on the green space that we have. So lots of exciting things still to come. One other big piece of information, I guess, to share is the work that we're doing with respect to Providence Commons. So many of you will know that the current Providence Manor property downtown is still owned by the Sisters of Providence. And this is an important consideration as we go forward. Apart from the village and the property at 1200 Princess Street, we need to come up with a plan for that property when it's vacated. And so the concept of Providence Commons has been discussed for some time and is now at an active phase of feasibility. So we did a first phase of this to really start to understand what is an opportunity here and that this is a viable idea. However, we need to do significant work still to understand if this is a viable project. And so we're at that stage now and working with consultant partners and the City of Kingston and a number of community groups to understand what's possible and then how to go forward to make it real. And so you For those of you who follow City Council, we will be tomorrow night presenting as a delegation. We're seeking two things, one of which is support in principle for this feasibility project. And it's really important to be clear that it's a feasibility project at this time. We do not know that we can make this happen, but we're very hopeful that we can. This could provide for a significant project in the heart of downtown. And so in order to explore that more fully, the second request to the city is for a $50,000 investment in that feasibility work so that we can build the business model and the business case to pursue a project if the Providence Village Board determines that they want to go forward with that. So we're very excited about the potential that this holds and working with a number of community partners to really explore that as an idea. Some of the early opportunities that have been outlined are significant housing initiatives that could have a large impact on the need for housing in the downtown. And so opportunities for affordable housing, geared to income, accessible housing, these are all opportunities that we'd like to have an opportunity to examine and see if we can prove them out viably. But also, as Krista shared with you, the picture of the incredible chapel that exists on this property, the foundation house, which was the original mother house for the Sisters of Providence, is also on this property. So all of this together leads to a number of options that is worth exploring. And so that work is going forward over the next several number of months. So please watch for where we go with that and seeking City Council support tomorrow night as we understand what's possible and be able to really flesh that out. So I'm going to pause there because I know that there were a number of questions submitted in advance, as well as your opportunity to type some additional into the chat. And I'll turn it to Julie, who will direct out questions, and Krista and I will be able to respond to them as long as the time allows. So Julie, back to you.
Sure. Laurie, one of the questions that came in early was whether there's a role for the associates of the Sisters of Providence, and also another question about how the Sisters ministry will be affected on the site. Could you respond to that, please?
Absolutely. Finding ways to ensure that the ministries of the Sisters of Providence continue is part of our planning. And so the associates would be part of that. I mentioned the Providence Spirituality Center and the evolution of that work, where days of reflection and personal ministry has been able to take place for decades here on the property. For larger groups externally, that will continue internally. But as we go forward, understanding how other ministries, such as the work that the associates do, will be critical. So we hope to host the associates in the village going forward as they become more independent in their own development. And so we look forward to them being here as partners and continuing to advance those various ministries and services in the community.
Perfect. And I'm just wondering if folks have questions, if you want to type them into the chat area. If you look in the little bar at the bottom of your screen, for those of you who may not be familiar with Microsoft Teams, there's a little kind of a little quote bubble, like a cartoon bubble with a couple of lines in it. If you just click on that, it will open up the chat and you can certainly type your questions in there. There is one now, I think you've addressed it though since the start, Laurie, about community housing in the village. There's also another question about the sleeping cabins in the short term and whether there's been any conversation given to having maybe some of those sleeping cabins moved in. So I'll leave it to you to answer that one.
Yeah, that's not a conversation that we've had or that we've explored. So that I can't really comment on that much more than that. Certainly it's a priority in the city and, you know, it's something for us to consider as we address the larger housing issue in the city going forward. But I can't say much more than that. It's not an initiative we've studied relative to the village.
All right. And we've got a great question here from Rob Wood, who's asking how community leaders or organizations that aren't planning to be on the site, but wondering kind of how they can support the village's plans going forward.
Well, when they say it takes a village, it absolutely does. We need to find the partners who will help us to develop the ideas and the concepts that you've heard about. Some of them are concretely moving forward, but we still have vacancy within the Mother House. We still have vacancy within the village, and we absolutely will need partners when it comes to exploring the opportunity of the Providence Commons as well. So I would say, we're in active conversation with a number of partners relative to those largely not-for-profit and service organizations. But we're trying to be as creative as possible around who might be interested or willing to come into the village. The Sisters' vision was very clear that we want to be multi-generational. We want to be women focused. We want to welcome all communities and faiths, and we want to be able to really continue to serve those who are vulnerable. And that's quite a broad basket. And so any of our community partners, whether you're going to be tenants here or not, we need to work together to maximize the green space, to connect people to the opportunity that's here, suggest it in conversation. The vision of the Sisters also includes the fact that we are supporting organizations to, the way I've deemed it, is have a leg up. So much of the concept of how the village will operate is that it will be lower than market rent for programs and organizations who come here. And so that's furthering their contribution from the village to be able to help organizations to operate. And so while we're continuing to work on that business model, that's a really important consideration. So talk about that with your friends and with partners and get ideas generating as to how we can identify partners, but also partners who will reach out to us to say, what's this about? We're always open to conversations. I think not a week goes by that I'm not contacted to say what's happening and what might be available and how might my organization fit into the village. So great question, Rob. I think that's an ongoing piece of work. I hope that all of you will continue to help us and continue the conversation.
Fantastic. I'm not seeing any other questions popping up in the chat. I'm just wondering if maybe there's some final thoughts that Krista wants to provide, and you as well, Laurie.
Krista, anything from your side before we wrap up?
I'm just trying to get my camera to turn back on, but it's not cooperating, so my voice will have to do. I just wanted to say, oh, there it goes. I just wanted to say thank you, Laurie, again, for having us and for the interest from those who participated today. We are so incredibly excited and so lucky and blessed to be able to be developing both of our buildings at Providence Village, and it's very, very exciting to see it coming to life. So again, any questions, reach out. The contact options were included there, and we look forward to sharing more on the progress of both projects, but certainly Hospice Kingston will be first out of the gate. So thank you again.
Well, that's wonderful. Appreciating that very much. My own roots and connection to Providence Care are proud days, and it's a wonderful way that working at Providence Village now, we're able to stay connected, but very proud to be able to host as landlord, so to speak, but very proud to host these two important projects in the city coming into the village and our continued partnership together. So thanks to you as well, Krista. I love your headset. My first job, interestingly, was also at McDonald's. So doesn't that say something?
One more thing in common, Laurie. I love it.
There you go. But thank you for that. I think for everyone else, this really was our hope today to re-engage the community. And as we mentioned, we will be sharing the recording of this update, but also continuing to reach out in a number of ways with newsletters and in particular our social media channels. We do have a presence on the 3 platforms that you see, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and our own website, providencevillage.ca. Please check those out because we want to be a regular communicator. We want to be able to share updates. And while some of that is driven by the progress and the rate of advancing that work, we've got lots to share. And so very grateful to have your interest today. I would also say that, you know, as we continue to work with a number of partners and we do spread that word, please continue to reach out and help us to explore where there are opportunities. The extent of potential for Providence Village and Providence Commons, we hope, and you know, just being a partner and a presence in the city. The sisters have continuously made their presence known, and their contributions have been incredible in this city, and we really hope to continue that with these innovative concepts that they've designed and envisioned, and that we will continue to work with many partners going forward.